Hello everyone and welcome to Organic Matters, the podcast brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. It's great to be back and I'm delighted to say that we are on the farm here of Donagh O'Grady, just outside Askeaton.
Oh, my pleasure, Hannah, my pleasure.
And we're just about to go through the gate here and there's some cattle on the far side and it's suckler cattle, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, it's all suckler cattle and we take them through to a finish. So we have about 70 cows here and everything is kept until it goes to good herdsmen down in Care.
So I see all different, I think, colours in front of me. So what breed do you favour?
I've tried everything down through the years. So what's in front of us now is a mixture of Aubracs and Whiteheads, because those are the two pedigree bulls I have at the moment.
The Aubracs are very pretty, aren't they?
Very pretty, yeah. I like them so much. I invested in a few pedigrees. So I have 6 or 7 cows now. Pedigree Aubrac cows. And
I'm biased because I'm a Hereford breeder as well, so I shouldn't be admitting that the Aubracs are quite nice actually. Very Frenchy looking actually in their eyes or something. Yeah, they're lovely.
They are, yeah. They're kind of calm, but they're funny. They're very stubborn animals compared to I've found. Maybe it's just the ones we have, but if they don't want to go somewhere, it's very hard to get them to
People
to
say
go.
stubborn. Herefords are more stubborn. You're telling me the Aubracs are?
No, I find the Herefords easy.
Okay.
Yeah. Much easier than the Aubracs anyway.
And in terms of ease of calving, Hereford versus Aubrac, because a lot of people have gone into Aubracs as they think of it as more of an easy calving continental breed, maybe easier than Limousin or Charolais.
Yeah, it would be. Of the continental breeds, I find them I wouldn't say there's any difference between Aubracs and Whiteheads really.
Okay.
Very similar. Small little calves and fairly kind of lively when they're born. So yeah, no, I like them, I must say.
Which is what you want when you're calving 70.
Yeah, well, we kind of split it. We'd calve some in the spring, or the bulk in the spring, but then we'd calve more in sort of September time. So it's not all coming together.
And is that to balance out what you're sending to the factory and when you're sending it to the factory?
It's partly that. It's mainly actually just the workload, because we used to have more and we had them all. I remember a couple of spring times here, and it was too much to when things started going wrong. It's just too much to manage. So now it suits really well, and everything's carved outside now.
Really?
We've gone back. This year now we've pushed it out into sort of March and April, whereas before we started the end of January, February. So this year everything carved outside. And we were lucky with the spring too. Yeah. But the spring last year in 2024 was so awful. I just thought we can't be dealing with that anymore. And carving them in February and putting them out and bringing them back and putting them out again and all kinds of issues to go with that.
Well, I think like a key element of making any kind of profit in any business is to control your costs. So if you can control your costs in terms of straw bedding and animal housing and have them outside, that must make a big difference, because straw is such a fundamental part of bedding cattle in winter in organic systems.
Yeah, although I mean they're still in for the winter, so you're still using a lot of bedding. Although again, as you say, I mean straw is just out of order altogether this last couple of years actually.
Good quality straw is very expensive per bale.
Oh, if you use the exact specifications that you need to use for a suckler cow, you just can't do it. I mean, this year we've taken to woodchip instead as a much cheaper alternative, which seems so far anyway. It seems to work fairly well, although it has clogged up the spouts on the slurry spreader. The contractor didn't really like it when all the little chips went into the end of his trailing shooting.
Oh no, that wouldn't.
But that was the other part. I mean, he was able to manage, but it was a slight issue.
Okay. And in terms then of the calves, I mean, they all look hale and hearty, and they're that lovely caramel colour, I suppose, or a kind of even deep brown colour that a lot of people like to see when they're finishing cattle. Do they finish well?
They do. I haven't a huge number of them now finished at this stage. They do. It's kind of hard to get the flesh on them. They'd be different. They wouldn't be like an Angus or a White. And obviously, they do have that continental side to them. That it's hard to get them into a decent fat cover.
Okay. And what age roughly do you try and finish them? Are you aiming for?
I'd love if they were all finished at 18 months, but I mean, you probably have one every year about that way. So anything between 18 months and up to you'd have them all gone by the time they're 3 unless something's gone badly wrong.
And are they outside full time? Do you house the suckler cows but keep the ones trying to finish outside? How do you manage that?
The autumn calvers stay out all winter because we're lucky we have a winterage effectively that sort of we traditionally we just leave it and it grows away for the summer, and then we put them there for the winter, and we don't feed them at all. It's not massive. It's sort of 20 acres probably, but they thrive up there for the winter. I mean, they're getting a bit hungry by sort of the end of February, but they manage, and it saves an absolute fortune between feeding them and bedding them. It's easily, if you did your sums, they'd be the most profitable cattle on the farm by a long way.
And then in terms of finishing them, a lot of people try to use things like red clover silage, or we know the price of organic meal is very expensive as well. So do you feed the cattle anything?
We feed them. We're not really finishing anything over the winter now. We kind of talked about it, and we actually tried to get a price off Good Herdsman a good few years ago that would cover our costs, but they couldn't or wouldn't give it to us. So we wouldn't kill anything from sort of all through the winter. I'd say the last cattle would kill be October, November, and then we'd start again. We had a few last week, so kind of end of May before we kill any more. And there's 4 of us together that would supply Good Herdsman, that we sort of, between us, we'd sit down and work out what we'd have for the year and the dates that we'd want to kill them. So we've cattle booked in now for the rest of this year.
Do you think that kind of group buying power is important to have?
Doesn't seem to make much difference with Good Herdsman. I don't think we get much better price than they're giving a standard price, and that's it. If you're buying inputs, it's maybe a slightly different thing, and we share a bit of machinery and stuff between us too, which is a big saving.
If we start heading back down the lane here, Donagh, back to the yard, just to have a look at some of the facilities that you have, and you're talking there about, I guess, prices, and there is only one really main organic beef factory in the country as well, but prices this year, beef prices, have been fairly phenomenal. Can you give listeners like a rough idea of what you usually get, say for the non-farmer listener, maybe price per kilo, and what you're getting this year roughly price per kilo? So what would you expect usually to maybe be getting for organic beef? Usually
once we got over about €5 a kilo, we thought that was a good price. But again, the cattle we killed recently were $8.40, $8.60 for the best of a little Angus heifer. So yeah, phenomenal difference. That's huge. Absolutely phenomenal difference.
And is that why, if someone's listening as well, and maybe they're not from a farm, but they're going into the supermarket or their local butcher to pick up steak, and steak has just become so expensive, that's partly the reason why?
Yeah, it's hard to see that it's going to be affordable for people. Even myself, I went into the shop thinking I'd buy a few steaks the other day, and I got such a shock about the difference in price in 3 or 4 months. I left it on the shelf. I mean, I'll go back eventually, but that day I was so surprised.
Do you think it'll last? I know no one has a crystal ball, and you don't want to be negative, but I don't know if it'll last. What do you think, the good prices?
What people say, it sounds like it might. Yeah. It's hard to believe. It's most of us are fairly pessimistic by nature. Usually things don't last too long, but I mean it's long overdue. Because I mean you've barely been making a profit all along. Yeah. And finally, we'll make a bit more than just what we get in our basic payment. And in terms of farmers being traditionally pessimistic as well, the weather has been a bit odd in terms that we've had glorious weather in May and a couple of deluges then in the last couple of days. How does that impact your farm or your farm planning for the summer ahead? Well, we're pretty like a lot of people. We made silage a few weeks earlier than I would have liked to, just because the weather was so good. So we've great silage, but we haven't got very much of it. Okay. And so we'll have to try and make it up later in the year. And do you feel but you should be reasonably confident, and you don't do anything like, you don't go in for red clover silage, or you're not trying to cut at a certain time before the seed heads have burst to get really high quality silage, or you silage testing for quality or anything like that? Yeah, no, we do red clover. We've been doing that for the last few years, and that does have to be cut at a certain time. So even that, when we cut it, is in the fine weather, it was maybe a fraction earlier than would have been ideal. But I think with hindsight, it's worked out quite well, because it would have been so wet the last 10 days or so. And if you've been doing it for a couple of years, the red clover, what are your top tips for anyone listening who's thinking of doing it? I mean, how do you plough the ground before getting it in? Do you over sow? How do you manage to sow it and then keep it for as long as possible? This is the sort of second lot. The first lot we had lasted about 3 years, but we ploughed the field and put it in sort of conventionally, if you like. And again, we're on the second lot now, the sort of third year of the second lot. And again, ploughed the field and put it in. But 3 years seems to be about as much, 3 or 4 years, about as much as you'll get out of it.
Is it worth it?
The first lot I got probably was better than the second. I didn't pay enough attention to there's different varieties, and I can't remember the names now, but there's a huge difference in the type of red clover that we had. We had a much bulkier crop with the first lot that I used, whereas we got seed from a different source for the second lot, and it's a different type of plant, much smaller plant, and maybe it'll be more persistent and it'll pay off in the long run, because it's an expensive business. By the time you paid someone to plough it and till it and seed it and set it and everything, it does cost a lot of money.
And I guess I should explain for anyone new to red clover, I mean, the whole idea is that it's not just nitrogen fixing, but it becomes a higher value protein feed, and that's important because obviously in organic the feed inputs can be double sometimes what you'd buy in conventional systems. So you're trying to grow your own protein feed or protein source within the farm gate. So that's quite important. So you do clover. Do you buy in straw? You don't do any of your own straw or anything?
No, we haven't any tillage. We did it. We grew combi crop for a while, but we made silage out of that, so there was no straw. It all went into the silage pit. But that again, it just was too. It was fabulous feed, but it was just too expensive. Okay. Again, by the time you paid it, all the contractors to do all the different bits and pieces, and we'd no way of doing anything ourselves. It just wasn't worth it financially.
It's tough, isn't it?
It's hard to get ahead. Always hard to get ahead.
We're in your kind of slatted shedding area now. So give people a rough rundown of, I guess, the system that you have. There's slats and there's bedding, essentially. That's what I'm looking at, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. There's some of them are traditional slatted sheds that we just put a lie back at the back of them. That one shed on the right that we're looking at now was a purpose built for the organics, and so it's half and half. Like a lot of them, it's half a sort of slatted concrete area and half a bedded lie back area, which is the spec for the organic system, that they have to have 50-50.
Did you get a grant at the time? Was there an organic grant or a TAMS grant or anything going to build it?
There was a grant. It was before the TAMS. I can't remember what scheme it came under, but yeah, we did get something towards it. What
do you think of the current schemes? Have you made use of any of the 60% TAMS for organic farmers?
I have, yeah. I think it's great. I bought a few. I bought a woodchipper last year, which was covered by TAMS for the bedding, as I was saying.
That's good, isn't it?
Well, it was great, yeah, and also because we have quite a lot of dead ash on the farm, so it made sense from the ash dieback. So it meant the ash wasn't a dead loss completely.
That's good. And have you got your eye on anything else? I know as farmers we always kind of have our eye on the wish list.
No, I mean, I need to upgrade some of these sheds. Some of the sheds are really old traditional sheds that have been there for 70 or 80 years or more, and they're beginning to reach the end of life. But it's even with the 60% grant, it's such an expense. It's hard to see. It's hard to justify it.
It's such a beautiful farm, though, and I imagine like people going around listening to the podcast can hear all the birds in the background as well. I mean, just it's a beautiful setting. The cows have it lucky, pretty much.
Well, until the day comes, yeah. But yeah. No, we're lucky. It's a smashing spot.
It's really lovely. Are there any future plans looking ahead as to who's going to be brave enough to take it on from you?
Yeah, I have a son who's 23 who's interested in planning to come back. So hopefully he will in the next few years.
23 is young though still, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I say. In the next few years could mean 3 years. It could mean 6 or 7 years. I think, but I think he'd like to do it. And that's the sort of plan at the moment, is that he'll take over in the next few years.
Do you think that kind of life experience is important? Because you did some travelling abroad before you took over the farm as well.
Yeah, I was lucky. I did, and I'd hope he'd do the same. I mean, I sort of said to him, just because once you're here, you're here, and it's a great life. But now and again, it's good to get your head up over the parapet and see what else everybody's doing.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. Is there anything you want to add, or any words of wisdom for any organic farmers listening, or even for organic consumers who might be listening?
Well, I have to have a plug, I suppose. As well as the cattle, we do some organic apple juice, myself and my brother. So There's O'Grady Organics apple juice, which is available around this area anyway, and I think that's something that'll expand probably. But again, it's such, all these businesses, it's very sort of, the amount of work that's involved and the amount you can charge for it, it's not really a huge money spinner. But it's interesting, and it's something a bit different. Yeah. And we have an Airbnb here too, which is, again, it all helps.
And do you think farmers need to have a few different strings to their bows to make ends meet?
If you can, yeah, I think it's essential. And especially the way the climate is going, I think farming is going to become more and more difficult. So if you have got something to supplement the income, it's important.
And the apple juice is delicious for anyone listening. And I know that it's available in Centra and Adair and, like you said, a few other locations around as well. But Donagh, thank you very much. This has been great. For anyone listening, obviously you're listening to Organic Matters, and you can get more of the podcasts on whatever your podcast platform is. You can also find out more about organics by visiting www.irishorganicassociation.ie. So we'll have another episode in 2 weeks, but until then, take care.